Hello and welcome to Coffee and Childbirth podcast, which is a kind of a amalgamation of all these things together. We have different guests. We have different in-person events. I'm Dr. Kelsey. I'm a physical therapist by trade. And this is Miss Jessica. I will let Jessica share. She's so much better at sharing her bio and the things that she's going to touch on with all of you. But I wanted to just give her massive kudos for being a working managing mom, doing all the things. That's something that I think is really helpful and important for us to see. Most of the time, we're feeling like we only see one type of a mom or one type of pregnancy and postpartum. So go ahead, Jessica, and kind of introduce yourself to the audience here and share what you do and who you help.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jessica Winder, I have a background in HR. So I've been in HR for 15 years. As Dr. Kelsey said, I have a bunch of kiddos. So I have 4 babies, 2 sets of twins. My boys are 18 months. My girls will be 3 in 3 weeks, and I'm not okay about it. Like I am unwell. I will be crying on their birthday. But doing HR, and then I have my own career coaching business called Hidden Gym Career Coaching, where I coach executives. I now have a new niche of coaching moms that are about to go out on leave or coming back from leave. And what does that look like? Because I have gone on 2 leaves of absences. And then I'm an author. I have a book called The Hidden Gym Within that is a mix of telling my own personal story of working in HR and corporate spaces, and also kind of a journal of is this what you want to be doing? Is there something new that you could always do? I always believe in you can start over at any time. So we can talk about that today, but I've done a little bit of everything. And to your point, I grew up only knowing moms as either you were a working mom or you stayed at home. And now I consider myself to be kind of a hybrid because my kids were here with me, but I had a nanny. And so I was doing a little bit of everything. So it's a new thing.
Yeah, I think the gray area is really powerful. I think probably in birth as well, that's really powerful to be well, this could work out this way. This could not work out this way. We may go in thinking that to the experience we're going to have one thing, and we may change to a different thing. And I think that's, as far as having an event in person where we can just have a chance to look at things with a little bit of a distance or a little bit of a perspective versus feeling like we are in it. Because soon enough, this as a mom of kids, young kids, soon enough you will feel in it, and it's it's inescapable.
Yes.
You can't, it doesn't matter how what emotion you have about it, it's going to happen anyways, especially with 2 sets of twins. I only have two singletons. And so I think, what is it? The universe and God only gives you what you can handle, because I think I would implode if I had one set of twins. Cause I just am not built for that type of capacity. I needed the break. I needed the recovery. So everybody's different, but to your point of saying, okay, the gray area of what should you do in your career? There's a lot of should happening. There's probably not a lot of, you mentioned, that introspective piece. So with your book, I will be honest, I know you had a book, but did you say there's if I'm physically opening it, there's the journal side and the story side?
Yep. So it's meant to be a mix of both. So it's every couple of pages is more of a story of something I've been through or something you should be doing. And then the rest of the pages are meant to be journals. So it's meant to be reflective. You're basically journaling about your career, where you are right now and where you want to be. Because normally that's 2 different things, especially if you're going through some type of transition, whether that's having a baby or not, or you want careers. Any type of transition is making you rethink, is this what I want to be doing? I can't tell you how many times throughout my 15 years in HR, I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do something different. And then I start journaling and I'm like, no, this is all I want to do.
Yeah. It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
It's what you want to do. It's just not necessarily in this iteration as of right now. And that is very powerful, the way that you have that structure, because so often I see, like you were saying, well, I kind of am stuck because I'm in my own little echo chamber of what I'm experiencing. And so it's harder to even have a mirror to reflect, oh, this is something they're doing. What does that look like for me? If you just are given a blank page, a lot of people have writer's block and they just can't get beyond themselves, right? And so it's even if you're thinking about your birth plan, it is helpful. Your intentions for that, it is helpful to have something else that you see that's possible, even if it's not what you're exactly choosing.
Exactly.
And so that's something that's awesome that you put it into that. Did you feel like you had inspiration to put it in that way, or did you kind of shop it around and decide to self-publish, or shop it around and go, like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I did self-publish, and ironically, because I am the queen of type A personality. I will literally come up with something every other day. My husband's like, "You're gonna do what?" Like every other day, I'm like, "I'm gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it." Like, that's how my mind works. Like bing, 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 bing. So I was probably 6 months pregnant with my first set of twins, and he came home one day, and I was like, "I'm gonna write a book," and he's like, "Okay, cool." You know what I mean? Like, here we go again.
Jessica doing her Jessica thing.
I was like, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to self-publish it. Like, I already did all this research, and this was before AI. So I'm like Googling everything. I'm like, I'm going to do all this research and figure it out. And I was like, I also contacted this videographer, and he's going to come like film me, do some stuff. So there is actually a video of me like going through the process of, I'm going to write this book, and I'm like waddling around 7 months pregnant with my twins. And I'm like, I got to do this before their due date, because I made up in my mind that the book had to be out before the girls got here.
Got it. Okay.
I just made it up. But yeah, it was totally one of those things that I was like, I wish I would have had something like this, because I really had neither one of my parents worked in any type of corporate workspace. Okay. So I was definitely first generation in like this space, and I just felt like I had no guidance. So it's meant to truly just be, let's help you guide you through what it's going to be like to work in a corporate workspace, and to know like this is what it's like. So actually, ironically, every year I have a lot of sales around May, because people buy it for graduations.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, and I think that to your point of how do you, if you have examples of certain things that you're like, I'm not throwing any shade to my parents, but it just was not necessarily what I saw, the setting to understand how to navigate that. And to be honest, like full stop, being a female, being a minority female in corporate America, those are two layers that maybe not a lot of people have talked openly about.
Yeah. And I talk about that in the book, like being like one of only, you know, and I've worked in where I was the only person in leadership. So not only is it like a woman of color, but then you have power. So it's then like, okay, well, how do I use this power? What am I using it for? And that has been really important for me. It's like, that's the whole reason I started my business in 2020, because I sat and I thought, well, I have all this experience in HR. I can teach someone how to interview. I can teach all these things. Why don't I just help people? And so it literally became like a passion project. And it's listed on my resume as like a passion thing. Like I'm passionate about helping people find jobs, figure out what they want to do. And then, but my day-to-day job is working in HR.
Right. And at that time too, like if you had not had any experience, well, I don't know, did your parents have experience with business, owning their own business or anything like that?
Never.
So then you had no frame of reference, maybe close to you. Maybe you had aunties, uncles, whatever, or like someone you see on TV, like TV, not like a streaming show, but like the TV. Like you didn't have, that frame of reference to say, okay, this is possible. So of course you would start with what you know. And I think that does happen a lot in even a parallel or a mirror to the birth space, and like the childbirth and like early postpartum space is you may just not have the example that it's possible.
Absolutely.
And so even sharing those stories that it's possible is very helpful, or kind of reflecting back into, which is why we try to put different representatives kind of in the birth world and the early childhood space to say, oh, this is a potential. Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe a lot of times I see like home birth as the second choice after they've had their first child, because they're like, I got to try it out in the hospital. And then they're like, I either hate it, or they're like, it wasn't great. I could do something different. Yeah. And so they go, to what they truly potentially want, which is a different setting. And it's just interesting how that's how we learn. So it's not a bad thing.
Either way. Like, and it's funny because I had the opposite experience. So my first birth, I had a doula, a midwife, in my regular OBGYN, because I was twins, high risk pregnancy. At the time I was 35, wanted to do a home birth, literally went to the hospital and was like, I'm not having my babies here. I'm going to do this at home. And they're like, ma'am, come on. The second time around, had a planned C-section. It was easy breezy, the best experience ever. Like, had a wonderful experience. Highly recommend. But at the beginning, I was like, no, I'm doing it my way. I still, both, like the first pregnancy, I didn't take any medication. All natural, was going to duke it out.
Okay. Well, and so that, so that's an interesting, so you went, because I don't think I've explicitly asked you this part, but so you went to the hospital with your first set of twins, and you said you had your OB, because like you were saying, high risk, they're just gonna put that on your chart regardless. Like that's just, and then did you end up having a C-section with him, or did you do a vaginal birth with your first set of twins?
Well, this is ironic. So I had an amazing midwife who had a relationship with my OBGYN, and she was like, hey, we just need to have somebody, just because twins, no, to your point, no matter what age you are, if you are having a set of multiples, you are considered high risk, period.
They're going to supervise that. Yeah.
Like full stop. But I was very adamant about how I wanted my care to go. So like they had recommended me to do certain things that me and my midwife decided I wasn't going to do.
Okay.
So for example, I didn't end up going to like a high risk pregnancy center. I didn't do certain things. Like she was monitoring me and he was monitoring me, and we were like,
and you were fine.
Yeah. Like unless something went wrong, we were fine. The reason I ended up going to the hospital that day was that I had high blood pressure, and they were like, hey, we need to get you checked out. And when I got there, they were like, oh no, like you're already dilated. You're already moving. Like you're having these babies today. And even me and my husband still laughed, because even as they were telling me this, I was literally on the phone with my midwife, like, I'm going home. Like we already had the tub. We already had everything. We had converted my living room into, I was going to give birth.
Okay.
Like, whole thing was set up. Now, mind you, my midwife ended up coming to the hospital. Her and the doctor already knew each other. It was an amazing experience. I still decided I did not want any medication. So I did not take any medication. It was like whole thing. However, because you're having twins, you have to deliver in the operating room. They actually don't deliver you in a regular room,
which is
I am the perfect example of why. Because we get to the birth, I have my first daughter, she comes out, and the baby's like, I'm having twins, so they're in there together, there's not a lot of space. Well, baby A comes out, baby B moves up, so she literally moved up, and they could not get her to come out. Retracted into your minutes. She retracted into my body. They could not get her to come down. So then we had to have an emergency C-section. So I had a vaginal birth, and then I had a C-section.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Which is oddly enough, as time goes on, I've heard that more often.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm maybe 13 years in as a physical therapist, and maybe my oldest is 7. So like 8 years in as like birth specific or perinatal specific. And I only maybe within the last like year or so have heard that happening more often than not.
This is why they make you do it in the delivery room, because something's wrong. And so literally, and this is like funny, of course it would happen to me. I'm like I said, fully awake, no medication. We deliver my first baby girl, and they try to get her, the second girl, and they're like, we can't get her out. Her heart rate is dropping. We have to get you on the operating table. So mind you, I'm in a birthing, like I'm birthing next to the operating table.
Yeah.
So they're like, climb over to the operating table. So I climb on over and lay down, and they're like, all right, your husband has to go. We're going to put you to sleep. And and we did not want to know the sex. So I didn't even know what I had. I woke up in my birth.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Is it a girl? What is it? We knew we had one girl, and then we had another. But that happened to me. Second delivery, rolled in, went straight to the ER. It was great. Got all the drugs.
And I think that just the reality of how, I mean, this is what I hear a lot. Like I hear birth stories a lot, and it's always just every time it's just interesting to me. And I think that's part of, like you were saying, with what you do, what your work is that you're, if that still is like, wow, that's so crazy, that's so interesting. If that's still happening to you, that's probably not the job that you're doing, it's like the burnout associated with that. You know, like you still wanted to do HR, you still want to help people connect to what they need to with their jobs and help them master that season that they're in. And I still love to hear a twin birth, love to hear a sideways going over here. We're thinking with a singleton, we're going to do this instead. Like that's always interesting to me. So I think, how do you feel when it comes to like, if you had a mom who was pregnant and she was maybe, you know, into her second trimester? So for me, that feels like you're rolling. Like second trimester, things are becoming real. Maybe halfway through that, knocking on the door of the third. What's one piece of advice you would give her? She doesn't necessarily she feels like things are going to be fine. What would like a not preventative, but like something you would want to tell her about?
I think if I could go back and talk to myself that first time, second trimester, I would tell myself, trust the process. Because I was so anxious. I was reading every book, listening to every podcast. I was trying to control what I could, and the things I could control, what I was consuming. So I was over consuming everything I could get my hands on around twin birth, twin mom, twin. And I wish I would have just knew that I trusted my midwife. I trusted my doula. I trusted my doctor, that they were going to get me through this. And instead, I had like a lot of anxiety, like true anxiety. I would wake up in the middle of the night, like I'm reading, I'm doing all these things. And actually my second trimester is when I got a therapist. So that's what I would actually say. I was in Eternal Minds and I met with a therapist, and it was the best decision I made in my pregnancy, was that I needed to get help. Get a therapist.
Get a therapist to talk that out, figure out if maybe it's more actionable, if it's an action item that needs to be. And like you said, everybody's different with how they manage things, you know, how they're managing stress and how they're managing what they can control, what they cannot control. But I think that from what I typically see with work, with your spousal relationship, with your health, your birth, a lot of, like you mentioned, okay, what's the point where I can control something? And then when does it cross over? When does it spill over into the anxiety? And then some people will just like they'll just like learn nothing because they're just like so terrified.
Yeah.
They're just like,
I'm watching like twin birthing videos in the middle of the night, like psycho, you know? So
you're like envisioning, you're like, this is me. Like, I am this. I'm doing what's happening in the video.
Like 100%. But I think that was the best decision we made. Was I went to Maternal Minds, got a therapist, and she saw me through that first pregnancy, the second pregnancy. He 100% was an anchor for me.
Yeah. And I think that even, you know, those questions of like, what can we do? So like your example of, you thought, okay, I want to do this book. I want it to be done by this time. That's kind of your personality and how you manage movement. You want to move towards something. You don't want to feel like you're stagnant with something, because that makes you more freaked out or less stable, basically. And I think that also too can happen with the birth part of it. And so I hope that I feel like it's mostly kind of like what you said, where adaptability, like you have to trust yourself. And so however you get to that trust is going to give you more confidence to say, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to this person when after I have the baby, it's already set up that I'm going to get the reminder to reach out to them, or I already know them and this is the plan that we would reconvene, or I have the therapist that I'm going to restart our sessions once I'm slightly stable, like maybe a month or two in or whatever. Because I think that if we don't know if we're not even throwing something on the wall to see what sticks, then we do feel a little bit like we're a little isolated.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge that my first pregnancy, I was extremely ill. I was sick. I had morning sickness all 9 months. Like I was sick all the time. Second pregnancy, never threw up one time. Like it was a breeze. My boys, amazing. Didn't even I would laugh and be like, at the end of the day, I'd be like, oh, I'm pregnant because I'm so tired. But I would go throughout the whole day like nothing was going on. I had 2 daughters, so they were little. They still wanted mommy to do everything. So I even think about it until the end of the day when I would be so exhausted.
Yeah.
But my pregnancy, I was so sick, and it was the first one, and I was having twins, that it literally consumed me.
Sure.
And so that's the advice that I would give. And then also, just to the moms out there that are going to have multiples, there are so many great communities for multiples that I was not aware of until I was in it. And I would absolutely say lean on it, because there are so many great ones.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's interesting? So because I don't have multiples, that is probably a blind spot that I have, where I know there's a lot of communities for moms in general.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't realize there was as many twin communities. Is it like in person? Is it virtual? Is it a combination?
Both. So I've met up with there's a actually, this was how I met another mom that has 2 sets of twins.
Okay. Oh, okay.
This is through a mom twin group, and they meet up once a month, and it's all the twins. It's kind of crazy.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So when she and I got together, it's funny because there's 8 kids between us. And it's me and her and the nannies trying to pull it together. But online too, online twin communities are Moms of Multiples is a good one on YouTube. And you feel like you're not alone, because there's always this universal, having a baby is its own thing. But being a mom of multiples, or being a mom of somebody that has autism, or all these things, any nuance that you're going to find your community, because you are going to need them.
You are. Yeah. And I think, like you said, you don't really know it until you're in it, as far as we're good. We're tapped out. We're not having any more. But if we were blessed, I guess, with twins on that 3rd try, which, I mean, man, what a surprise that would be. But if we were, then it would be oh, now I'm going to be motivated to look. So if you kind of don't realize oh, if I'm potentially going to change my job or change the direction of how I earn money to support my family, you kind of don't know until you've made that decision and you're moving forward. Maybe you're a pre-planner, and so you start to make steps towards that, but often there isn't really a great I
don't see it. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, until the day I found out I was having twins, I would have never typed in twin mom or anything. I would have just never seen it. And so that would be another thing of advice. I would say, go to your social media and type in whatever it is. Even if it's you are having high blood pressure, or you're having complications, type in that complication, and I can guarantee you there's a community of people out there talking about it where you won't go alone.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely is true. I think even to with the concept of okay, well, if I'm thinking about starting my own business or changing what I'm doing, and there's not a lot of, I used to think that it was because moms didn't have very much time. And that's why they didn't share that they're mom business owners, which to a certain extent is true, but I don't think that's really why we don't share. I think that probably one of the things I've seen is if you're nervous about being cringe or being on, being a mom with a business where people are oh, that's your little business, or just because you only I only see clients 3 days a week, but I have 2 admin days, and then I have to quote the weekend, whatever that means. But people don't think that that's enough to share. And like you said, we were talking about before this, the house manager conversation of that is the max amount of time that I can devote to not lose all of my sanity.
Yes. So we just recently hired a house manager, and it's the best thing I ever did. The ability to outsource some of the stuff that I was doing, because one of the things that my husband and I kept talking about is that I felt such overwhelm. And to be honest, I would sometimes feel jealous of him, because it felt like when he came home from work, and he's an attorney, that he walks in the door and his job's done. And now he's just playing, he's wrestling, he's having a good time with them. Meanwhile, I'm playing with them. I'm thinking about the dishes. I'm thinking about laundry. I'm thinking about making bottles. So my mind is elsewhere, and I'm not really having a good time. And it honestly made me feel kind of crappy. Well, why do you get to be the fun parent and I have to be the responsible parent? And so finally he was well, why don't we hire somebody to help you do that? And I was bingo, because now I want to be the fun parent. Now I want to wrestle on the ground, and I'm not worried about the dishes, because those are going to get done not by me.
Yeah. And for people and on that end of the spectrum, we have the ability to do it. And that's great. And that's great that he suggested that to you. That's
Yeah.
amazing that he wasn't like, well, why?
Yeah.
You know,
No, he
that's
talked
always
me
a
into
tough.
it. It took months because I was kind of like, I actually felt bad about it. Like, well, maybe I'm supposed to be doing this. And he finally was like, but why?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's tracking. I don't get it. And then you have that ability, which is amazing. And then if someone is like not necessarily have that ability, but I do think the distinction is important
Yes.
because it's like, okay, well, if that's not the full ability to do that, to get that role for whatever reason, if you're not quite there, right? If the mom is like, I still feel guilt or whatever the reason is, or financially it's not there, then I feel like there is still so much help when it comes to the acknowledgement of that is hard. I understand your spouse saying like that sucks on a Sunday that you're preparing for the week and it's kind of insanity. It's I see that if I take on this role, like we have kids in sports. And so okay, so we have kids in sports. Sorry, let me
No, I'm like, oh yeah.
and my husband decided, he did ask me, but he decided to join the board this season after multiple seasons, but for the little league that we're in. And I was like, okay, I just want the reminder that even though you're joining that, there's going to be overflow that I'm like unspoken responsible for. And that's okay. I'm adjusting to it. I'm taking it on in my brain right now, my identity, but it is, you know, those things where it's like, well, I'm going to have to leave work on time or earlier because you want me to be supportive to get the kids there, or to be, you need to be at that game, which means I need to pick them up, even though we're not going to the game because it's not our team or whatever the situation is. So it's, you know, that kind of stuff can help so much just by flexing in and saying, I can't do this, but I can do that.
Yeah.
I think we're closer as a community of doing that, but it still needs to be very obvious.
Yeah. Even just talking about it, like even, you know, the point of like when I had both sets of twins, my husband took parental leave. Literally, people thought he was crazy. Like his first job, they're like, oh, like you're going to take like 2 weeks. And he's like, absolutely not. Like I said, had just given birth and had a C-section. So I actually needed a lot of help. There was just no way. Like my parents flew in from Texas and stayed with us. He was home. Like we needed all the support. But I kind of think it kind of started there of like, he absolutely feels like responsible and like is like, we're in this together. And like for my job, I do speaking also. And like, I just recently got back from Florida. He was here with them, like all 4 of them with from our nanny, but like we're in it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like back in the swing of traveling. I used to travel a lot more before I had kids, and I'm getting back in the swing of it to the point now that when the girls see an airplane, they'll say, Mommy goes on airplanes. And I'm like, yes, I want you to know that Mommy goes on airplanes and I go do stuff and I come back. I always come back. But that's part of our story as a family. Like I am going to be traveling, you know? So yeah, it's really valuable. And again, you know, that reiteration of the gray area and why. So being in community with other moms that you see, that you can say, oh, they're kind of doing it like that. What would work for us? Or, oh, they're building a skill in that arena. Is this something that in a different way that could work for us? Or is this the same? And I think that even, you know, even understanding like with your birth, how sounds like your husband is, and he seems to be very active and in even the birth like the birth aspect of it is, does that make you feel comfortable? Does that make you feel more stressed? What is really like, what's going to make you feel the most comfortable as the person who's giving birth? Because that may not be the same for everybody. Yeah. And my husband during the process was my biggest advocate. My midwife, my husband and I had a conversation before we even got to the hospital about like expectations. Who was going to be speaking up for me. I at the time had decided I did not want to take medication. So I knew I was going to be in a lot of pain. And so it was very much like, who is going to be speaking for me? And between my husband and the midwife, they were the one answering all the questions on my behalf. And that's what I wanted. Like, I was like, I cannot do this.
Yeah. And then again, too, on the other side of that, it's like I talk to moms all the time that usually, and this is why we do start birth prep or go those conversations earlier, because usually they may kind of start out with being like, kind of holding it close to the
Yeah.
vest and being like, no, they're the best. They're my biggest supporter. Da, 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 da. And then you kind of see with some of those questions of like, but how is that going to land with them? How does that land with you? You kind of see in the interactions of this is the practice of the birthing positions or whatever, how uncomfortable maybe one of them is or both of them are. And obviously, like if you have not a stranger, but if you have someone in the room that's not yours, you may act differently with your spouse, right? But ideally, I do try to call that out pretty early on of like, this seems like this is more stressful for you. Do you think that there's room for this to evolve a little bit? Or do you feel like you want to really keep going on the solo road and having them present, but understanding that you're not necessarily leaning on them in that way?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Funny because I ended up not having my mom in the room for that reason. And my midwife and I talked about it, and she was like, it seems to me that when your mom is around, you become very childlike. And in this moment, we need you to be strong. And it doesn't feel like you can be strong. And she hit the nail on the head. I'm like, I would have been a totally different person. So, and my mom was totally understanding of it. And it's a dynamic of our own relationship that around her, I tend to tower down, and around everybody else, I get bigger. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're like, okay, we need that not to happen.
We just need to be neutral. We need it to be neutral so that you can manage what's happening, the stress that's happening. And that definitely is a big piece of like just exposing yourself to what's possible and what's there, and hearing that. Because I had a very similar I didn't have either my mother-in-law or my mom in the room at all. I didn't have my sisters. I didn't have any. I was just like, it's just me and my husband. And even then I was like, I love you so much, but like, maybe I'm just going rogue here. But that's just me as a person. And that's not necessarily everyone else. And so it's always kind of shocking. And I think that your perspective and kind of the stories that you share, and the ability to be like, what is the reflection of how this fits into your goal for your working life? Because things change when you have everything changes.
And the dynamic of it all. So like for me, this is funny because I ended up, it was just my husband and I, like that was it. We even eloped. So we didn't even have anybody at our wedding. So that this is our thing. Like it's just us. We're in it together. Da, 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 da. My best friend had her baby and she had everybody in the room. I'm talking about everybody that wanted to be there. Like I was there, like it was like a party in there. And I remember being like, this is so fun, like so lively. And everybody was a part of the experience, and that's what she wanted, and it was fun. And I am the exact opposite of that, like absolutely not. So and I thought it was amazing. Like I said, I was there, I was in the room, like it was fun, but that would never be my experience. And so I think knowing that, like, what is it that you want and like is going to make you happy? And I knew no way is everybody gonna be there. No way.
It was just not going to work that way. And that truly is the thought experiment of it all. And just like, that is also why for Coffee and Childbirth Live, we like to recommend, like, if you can come between your first and second, or as you start to kind of, whatever point you start to have those questions and those thought experiments of like, what would happen? What am I thinking? Is so helpful to have that and experience it, basically. We also just try to make it fun because it's so serious. You were there, and it's like, it's just so serious sometimes. And I'm like, let's just like have a coffee, have a, lunch, chit chat, laugh a little bit. Like, we got to make it a little more palatable because it can be so intense. You just said, I mean, with your first experience with birth, you had a vaginal birth and then an emergency C-section. That's like, the most intense
recovery was hard, but it was all worth it. It was all good. But to your point, like it's one of those things that like childbirth is so serious that I do remember feeling like, but my body, I kept telling myself, even though I was up in the middle of the night watching birthing videos, my body can do this. Like I can do this. Like, and so I think that's the feel that I got from the event. Like, you can do this. You're going to figure it out. You're going to figure out your path.
Right.
And you can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. Positivity with, with the reality in there. But yeah, you can do it. So we're so excited to have you come and be part of the panel again and share the career and the mom wisdom. And we will share also your, like, how people can get in contact with you on the IG and the socials. I don't even know how to say, like, just all the socials.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm on all the socials.
Let's just we'll disperse it, okay? Because there's just so many, and we're like, just everywhere you look. So
yeah,
I'm
everywhere.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miss Jessica, and we will see you if you're watching this at the event July 25th. Check out our Instagram socials for the tickets. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.